Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about what a fraction actually is. And so your goal for today is I can explain the characteristics and the importance of a fraction. Usually when we start to learn fractions, we jump right in with adding, subtracting, multiplying, comparing and ordering, multiplying, dividing, all that good stuff. But while some of us can perform those operations, you don't actually know what different fractions look like compared to one another. And so we're going to take this time to sort of step back a minute so that you can start to see what some of these fractions actually look like. Okay, so what is a fraction exactly? Well, all fraction means is that it is a part of a whole. So in terms of just what we call a proper fraction, when we have 2/7 of something, the whole is going to be the sevenths, and there's only two parts that we have. So we only have a part of the whole. Here again, we only have one part, one of all 6 different compartments. So fraction just means that we have a part of something. So a fraction is made up of 2 numbers. The top number of a fraction is called the numerator. The numerator is that part that we do have. The bottom number is called the denominator. Now the denominator is the whole. We do have part of that whole, and this is how much we have, but there's also parts of the whole that we're usually missing. Okay, so there's 3 types of fractions, and the first type of fraction is called a proper fraction. Now, there's a couple of important things to know about a proper fraction. A proper fraction means that it is always less than 1. So whatever the fraction is, no matter how large the numbers are, if it's a proper fraction, it is less than 1 whole. Okay? Now, how do you know if it's a proper fraction? Well, it's a proper fraction if the numerator, which is this top number right here, is smaller than the denominator, which is the bottom part right here. Now, I want to kind of show you what this would actually look like. And so I want to actually draw these out. So I'm going to start over here with 16. And I need to make 16, ooh, that's a really rough line, 16 different parts. It's a little bit difficult to draw straight lines with this. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's 8, okay. It's a little rough. Okay, so I think that gives me 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it'll repeat on the other side. Okay, so my whole is 16, and that's what I've separated the parts into. Now I have 7. So let's color in 7 here. So this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, obviously, mine is not perfectly to scale because my lines are not straight, but what the point of drawing out a model is to show you that when you come up with the answer of 7/16 for a word problem, or you're solving an addition problem or a subtraction problem, this is what your 7/16 answer means. It means, well, you definitely have less than half, but almost half, and so that's important to know. All right, over here we have 5/10. So we're going to go ahead and separate this guy into tenths here. And again, it's, ooh, for sure not going to be perfect. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be 8. Again, not perfect to scale, but just so we can get an idea. All right, so what I went ahead and did is I drew the whole, which is 10, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the part, which is 5, and that's how much we actually have. So we have 1, we have 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so what you can see from this is we actually have exactly 1/2 of our fraction. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to 3/4 over here. So I'm going to separate this guy into fourths, which should be a heck of a lot easier than 16ths or 10ths. So there's our fourths. And then I'm going to, so we just did our whole, and now I'm going to go ahead and do our part. And so our part is going to be 3. So that's 1. This is 2. And this is 3. Perfect. Just like that. And again, these 3 are examples of proper fractions. All right, now let's take a look at something called an improper fraction. So an improper fraction is going to be the reverse of a proper fraction. When you have an improper fraction, it is always going to be greater than 1 whole. And the biggest thing is that the numerator, which if you remember is this top number, is going to be bigger than the denominator, which is the bottom part. And we'll get into exactly what that means. But when we draw these models, it's going to start to look a little bit different. And I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to start over here with 9/5. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first separate this into fifths. Again, as best as I can anyway. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is my whole. But I have 9 of these fifths. And so if I color them in, okay, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, and that's 5. Well, I still have 4 more than I need to do. And this is where the greater than 1 comes into play. So I'm going to draw another circle, and I'm going to separate that one into the same denominator. And so remember, I have 9 total parts. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 6. Here's 7. Here's 8. And here is 9. And so what this does is it tells you you have 1 whole of something and frankly almost 2 wholes of something, okay? You definitely have more than 1.5. And this is what's going to take us into our mixed numbers here in just a minute. So now over here we have 13/4. So 4 is our whole, and that's what we're going to separate this guy into here. But then I have 13 different parts. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm clearly going to need another circle. Separate it into 4s again. And so up here I had 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have 5, 6, 7, 8. But I'm not done yet. It looks like I need another circle. Okay, so I was on 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Uh-oh, I need another circle. And 13. So, what do I know about 13/4? Well, I know that that means that I have 3 wholes of something, and then I have 1/4 of this last something right here. Okay, that's where these models can become very helpful. All right, so over here I have 3/2. So I have, my whole is 2, so I'm going to cut it in half here, and I'm going to color in 3 of them. So this is 1, this is 2, and it looks like I need another circle. Cut in half again, and this is 3. And so what this tells me that is whatever this 3 over 2 represents, it's really 1 1/2 of something, okay? So now we've covered proper, which is less than 1, improper, which is greater than 1, and the last type of fraction we're going to cover is a mixed number. Now, a mixed number is also greater than 1, but here's the thing with a mixed number. The numerator, okay, which is the top, the part, it's smaller than the denominator, which is the bottom. So that part of it is a proper fraction. But then there is a whole number to the left of that number right there. And so I'm going to show you how we'll draw those types of models, okay? So when I have this whole number, which is 1 right here, that means I have one whole of something, okay? And so I'm going to completely color it in. But now over here, this is where I have my proper fraction, which is less than 1. And so I have 3 over 4. So I'm going to have my model here. I'm going to cut it into 4s because this is my whole. And now I'm going to color in my parts. So I have 1, I have 2, and I have 3. And so this is your model that's going to represent 1 and 3 over 4. All right, over here, I have 4 and 1/7. Now this 4 right here tells me that I have 4 complete wholes of something, okay? And so I'm going to color in this 1 right here, but then I need 3 more. So 1, 2, and 3. And again, my coloring is not the best, clearly. Okay, now I've taken care of my whole number, but now I still have this 1/7 right here. And so I need to make just another model. I need to cut it into 7ths. Let's see, 1, 2, okay, that's 6, 7, not going to be totally perfect. And I'm going to color in 1 of those parts because I have 1 of the 7 parts. And so this right here means I have 4 holes of something, but then I have just a sliver of that last hole, okay? Finally, we have 2 and 5/4. This 2 right here is my whole number, which means I have 2 holes of something. And so, ooh, my coloring is getting worse with each one. And so I have that guy right there, but I have 2 holes, so I need to draw another one. So that's my other one. But then I have this 4/5. So I need yet another model. I'm going to separate this guy into 5ths. But I have 4 of those parts already. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So it looks to me like I have almost 3 holes. Almost. All right, that was a lot of coloring, but why do we do all of that? So that we can understand what the fractions that we're working with look like and what they mean. So here, what we're going to do is sort of classify these. So I have 1 over 4. So what is the numerator? It's 1 because the numerator is the top. What is the denominator? 4. Is there a whole number? Nope. Is it a proper fraction, improper, or a mixed number? It is a proper fraction. It is less than 1. Okay? Over here, I have 7 over 3. My numerator is 7. That's the top. My denominator is 3. That's the bottom. And I do not have a whole number in front of it. Is this a proper fraction, improper fraction, or a mixed number? This right here is an improper fraction because the top, the numerator, is bigger than the bottom, the denominator. Okay, I have 13 over 5. So 13 is my numerator, it's the top. 5 is the denominator, it's the bottom, and I don't have a whole number with it. And it is also an improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. Here I have 4 and 3/8. My numerator is still that top number above the fraction, so that's 3. My denominator is still the bottom number in the fraction, that's 8. But this time I do have a whole number of 4. And because I have that whole number in front of it, we call it a mixed number. Over here I have 2 and 1/7. So my numerator is 1, it's the top. My denominator is 17, it's the bottom, and my whole number, which I do have in this case, is the 2 right in front of it. And because I have that whole number, it is a mixed number. Over here I have 5 over 11. So 5 is my numerator, 11 on the bottom is my denominator. I do not have a whole number. The 5 is smaller than the 11, so it is a proper fraction, which means it's going to be less than 1 whole. Over here I have 27 over 2. 27 is the numerator, and 2 is the denominator. Since the top is bigger than the bottom, I know that it's going to be an improper fraction, and I know I just skipped this, but I do not have a whole number in front of it. All right, you go ahead and try these real quick, and I will put up the answers. Go ahead and pause the video if you're not done, and if you are done, let's go over it. So the first one was a mixed number. The numerator is 1, denominator is 2, whole number is 2. The second one, 19 over 11, is an improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. 9 over 13 is a proper fraction. It's less than 1 because the numerator is smaller than the denominator. 1 and 7 over 11 is a mixed number. Your whole number is 1, your numerator is 7, and your denominator is 11. 5 over 8 is a proper fraction because the numerator is smaller than the denominator. 15 over 3 is an improper fraction because 15, the numerator, is bigger than the denominator. And last but not least, 8 and 1/5 is a mixed number because it has that whole number 8 in front of it. All right, so real quickly, why do we use fractions? How do we use fractions? Well, we use them constantly in everyday life. We use them to build, we use them to measure, on and on and on. So just to remind you some ways that we use fractions constantly. And by the way, if you ever see something in a decimal, please keep in mind that that is also technically, that can be converted into a fraction as well. So we use it in cooking. How do we use it in cooking? Well, we use it when we weigh something. So for weighing meat, we use it for storage. So if you know you can only fit 1.5 cups inside of a container, we need to go ahead and figure that out. And then we also use it for recipes and cooking when we need to measure something. Okay, for food. In terms of measurements, all right, we use inches, centimeters, meters, all that good stuff, but we use it to build structures, okay? If we don't measure properly, we're going to end up with structures that don't stand up properly or structures that are not functional. And so measurements become very important in building. We use measurements in cooking. We use measurements pretty much everywhere. Okay. Money and taxes. So when we start to talk about your tax rate as an adult, and we're also going to talk about this later in the school year when we talk about taxes and discounts, those can be fractions. When we talk about money, we can use fractions to talk about your bank account. How much, let's see if I can spell account right. How much money that you have in your bank account, how much money you owe, and it goes on and on and on. Fractions are literally all around us. We'll also talk about something called unit rates later on in the school year, and that has a lot to do with money and fractions as well. All right, so I am not going to do this part on the video because this is technically some classwork, but what you need to do is on a separate sheet of paper, and I need you to very clearly label this. I've given you clear examples up top, is there is 2 parts to this assignment. Okay, the first part over here, I give you the fraction, so 1/4 for example, and you're going to draw a model. Please know that you don't have to use a circle as your model. You can use squares or rectangles, on and on and on. That's perfectly fine. I just used circles for this presentation. So you're going to write out the fraction, you're going to write an equal sign, and you're going to take up as much room as you need in order to draw the model. There are 9 of those, so please take your time. Then once you finish those, on the other side here, I give you the model, and I want you to go ahead and draw out the model, and you're going to tell me what the mixed number or what the improper fraction or what the proper fraction is for that model. Again, I need it to be very neat. I need to be able to see it. If you want to use colors, that's fine, but please make sure that it's very neat so that I am able to see it. All right, that is the end of this a little bit lengthy video, but the point of it again was to really break down what fractions are so that you can really understand what you're doing as we start to manipulate them. Make sure you ask me any questions you have in class.